Okay, so like I was saying, I'm really excited about our session tonight in the admin series because we're going to be talking about digital learning. And I have always been involved in digital learning in some aspect for the last, oh gosh, 10, 12 years, I would say. And I feel like digital learning can be very powerful and reach a lot of students if done right and done well. COVID, I feel like this is strictly my own personal opinion. COVID really put the spotlight on digital learning, and I don't know that it did a good job of highlighting the great things that teachers were doing with digital learning or the benefits, but it really brought to light how some things need to be revised or done differently or done better to meet more students where they are. So, anyway, that is my platform, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. In a moment. Let's see. I think I will share my whole screen. I'm going to share my whole desktop because at different points we are going to be going through different platforms and stuff. So I'm going to just do that. And then I'll come over and I'll start presenting. Okay. So welcome again. I am Jackie McCune. I work at the Department of Education. I oversee K-12 computer science, integrated technology, and STEM education in the Office of Standards and Instructional Support. And Dave, I could introduce you and say some really fun facts, but I'll leave it to you to say what you want people to know.
Thank you, Jackie. I get the pleasure to work with Jackie, so it's my honor to be with that as the director of our Office of Standards and Instructional Support. And for Tammy's sake, even though I've shared it already, you get Jackie the next 3 runs because she's going to help us with computer science. And she would like to walk down her red carpet next time, so I have to get that ready. But no,
It's like
we have
a
a
whole
good time. We have a good time together, as you can tell. So glad that Jackie's with us and a lot of this work, and I'll jump in whenever you need anything, Jackie.
Thanks, Dave. And I'm sorry, I'm still getting over the tail end of a head cold, so I'm going to be like sipping my tea and stuff. So I apologize if it's disruptive. So this is our plan for tonight. We're going to kind of touch on a few different things and then tie it all together at the end. This admin series, or this series of trainings on digital learning, is actually a 3-part session. So tonight we're kind of laying the foundation and getting started on what different types of aspects we need to know before we look at and evaluate digital learning the way it is in our schools or with our students, and how might we change that? How can we, like, what tools do we need? What information do we need? Do we need to change it, or do we just need to refine the great things that are already happening? So here's just a little bit of, like we say, bits and pieces. I already put the attendance link in the chat, so make sure you do that. If any of you are earning the SUU college credit, just know that you have to sign in, and also for the professional learning hours. And at the end, we will have an exit survey. And that's how we know who was here. I will share this professional learning calendar again at the end, but it is a calendar that we have at the Department of Education. We're doing our best to keep it updated and kind of make it more user-friendly. As you can imagine, it is difficult to keep it updated with all the different offices at the department, but we're really trying to focus on that so that everybody has one place to look at all of it. So let's talk about digital learning. So take a minute, and I just want you to think, when you hear the words digital learning, what is it you think of? And just keep it to yourself for a moment. So once you have an idea, I would like you to open up a browser on your computer and go to www.menti.com, MENTI.com, And you're going to type in this code down here, 63005052. What it's going to do is it's going to prompt you to enter words. You can enter up to 8 words that come to your mind, and it can even be like small phrases of like 2 or 3 words that come to mind when you think of digital learning. And it can be anything from a computer, Chromebook, to collaboration or communication, anything like that. And you can actually submit more than 8 if you want to. You just have to go back in. And what it's going to do is it's going to create something really cool that we are going to watch develop. And I'm going to go to that screen now. So as you guys hit enter, you'll start seeing the words appear. There we go. Collaborate, research, create. Love it.
That was cool to watch that all come in, Jackie.
Yeah, isn't it cool? And so like any word cloud, what you'll eventually see is as words are repeated, the word gets larger and bolder. So it doesn't look like we have anything duplicated yet, but you could see collaborating with peers and collaborate. It's pretty much the same thing. I love the innovation. I feel like that is something that is often forgotten about when you think of digital learning and the opportunities for that. Real world asynchronous learning, yes. Creating engagement. Is anybody still putting more in? No. Oh yeah. Okay. Nice. Interactivity. Great one. Career preparation. Yes, 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 yes. That is so important and often something we forget about. Yes. These are great. So as you can see, even in our small group, we have a lot of different ideas of like what digital learning means, what it looks like. And that's okay. There isn't any definition that says this is what digital learning must look like. This is what it should look like in every single classroom. And that is the beauty of it, is that if you think about it, when we walk into a classroom full of students, we don't see any student who is the mirror of another student. They're all different. They are all unique. They all have strengths. They all have things they struggle with that they're trying to work through. And they're all at different levels academically, sometimes behaviorally and maturity as well. But with that, we have this opportunity to utilize digital learning to really meet these kids everywhere they are, right? So let me go back to this slide deck. What we're going to do is we're going to watch this video. It's about, I'm trying to remember, 3 or 4 minutes long. And it really dives into understanding what digital learning is in different capacities. What I like about this video is it's not like a sales pitch where it only shows you the good things. It also shows you some of the potential disadvantages, some of the things we might have to overcome if we were to integrate digital learning in our classrooms. Things like that. So what I would like you to do is grab a piece of paper, a Post-it, a scrap piece of paper, an envelope, anything you can write on. And while you're watching this, just kind of jot down some of the things that really pop out to you or really resonate with you as advantages and disadvantages within digital learning. And while you're doing that, I would love for you to consider 3 things: different learning styles of students that we have out there, varied academic abilities and disabilities, and then also language differences within our students. Okay. So it goes really fast, really fast. Let's talk for a minute. What are some of the advantages that you got from the video that you think are great about digital learning?
I think the accessibility for students, no matter where they are. Also the graphic interfaces, leads to some engagement. Some students are more familiar and comfortable in a technological environment, in a technology-based environment. And then I know we utilize a lot of gamification to sort of package curriculum and ideas into that sort of concept.
Yes, thank you. Those are all great. I love the idea of the visualizations in there because that's so important. And oftentimes, I hear people say, well, if my kid is learning on a computer, they're thinking they're just reading a textbook and answering questions. And that could be the case in some situations. Not all of them are really exceptional, but there are other moments when it is really exceptional and they have that time to not only look at a model, but really engage with it, to manipulate it, move it around. Like they have so many apps now. Like there's one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially a frog. You can literally dissect a frog in this app and show all of it and manipulate it and see all the sides of it and the organs, and like that wasn't available when I was in kid. Otherwise in 7th grade, I wouldn't have to partner myself with the 2 guys that I knew were going to do all the work for me, so I didn't have to touch the frog. I would have actually learned about dissecting a frog, right? Okay, Tammy, you want to share anything?
We're very, like, our school, I feel like we've always been kind of cutting edge. I've always had teachers that have been able to embrace anything. But I love how with EL, like our language kiddos that are new to country, how we can use the technology and there's easy accessible translation pieces they can put in and share, and they're getting the full gist through the visual pieces. And they're learning vocabulary at the same time, but you can still use the translation piece in there. So I feel like for us, that's a huge advantage. And you were talking about the dissection. We have that, our second graders have merge cubes.
Yes.
And you can dissect yes, it's the merge cubes where you turn your phone
Love
into
it.
an actual hologram and you can pull out the parts. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yes. Yeah, I love merge cubes. That, like, I think they are the greatest thing since sliced bread. And a funny story is about, I don't know, maybe 2 years before COVID, I happened to be at Target and they had this entire like end cap full of these merge cubes that obviously weren't selling because they were on sale for 25 cents. 25 cents.
Our teacher got them for $2 at Target like that. Yeah.
Yes. And so I literally grabbed as many as I could because I'd read about them in a magazine or in an article or something, and grabbed all of them. And sure enough, a year later, they were $15 a piece.
They're 2 for $50 right now.
2 for 50?
2 for 50. Yeah, but what's really cool, sorry to digress here, but if you get that for schools, they'll give you a printable, you can print out the merge cube and you could just print them on cardstock and use them for free for schools.
Yeah.
But one of the disadvantages when we were looking about technology changing, we're a Title I school and our budget was, but one time we were tier 2, so our budget wasn't that big. It took us years to get one-to-one with iPads, but we find as soon as we got everybody one-to-one, then we had to figure out how to budget again to get, now we've got these Air 2s that are outdated and we can no longer, so it's that constant thinking about how to invest in technology and then to help our kids access it. That's a really hard part too, is getting that equity and accessibility that we firmly believe in, like the engagement and the depth that kids get in the real world application for that, learning how to have a career one day or learning skills for careers that aren't even created yet, is unbelievable.
Right. No, I love that you brought up the like sustainability of it. There has to be a sustainable plan, not just for the devices and the refurbishment of everything, but also in the like time to keep up with everything, the professional development that goes along with it, the time investment for the teachers, the parents, the students, all that to keep up with it. Although, I don't know, maybe the kids pick up on it much faster than adults because they're just so used to it, but it is something that has to be considered.
So we're also a STEM school. I'm sorry, but we just had this discussion with some teachers because they are not delving into the technology aspect like they need to, and they're like, well, I just haven't learned it enough. And it's like, let go and let your kids do. And I always laugh. I had a teacher that spent 2 weeks learning how to use Bloxels and to get the gist of it to teach his class. And within 15 minutes, the kids were able to do more than he had learned in that 2 weeks. And so and we do a lot with like Minecraft Classroom, and the kids get it. The teacher's like, I can't figure all this out. It's like, just let them go. They know, their brains are so wired different. Just let them go and you learn as they go. You're just making sure the ship stays in the water. So let them go.
It's a scary thing for teachers because in all of the like pre-service preparation and even like ingrained in us from when we were the students ourselves is that the teacher has all the answers. The teacher knows if you have a question, you go to the teacher. So it's a very like scary thing for teachers. And it's this huge, I hate to use the term paradigm shift because it's used ad nauseum in education, but it's like this philosophical shift that you have to really be comfortable with and be okay with the fact that you could go to a student and say, I don't know, but let's figure this out. Like, let's problem solve this. So thank you for sharing that. That's great. Jamie, what are the disadvantages that you pulled out?
So cost can be prohibitive, obviously. Funding, maintenance is something that as far as maintaining, especially if it's laptops and or in-person equipment that you need. We struggle a lot with the perception because we are a completely online school. So a lot of, students, parents, and frankly, fellow educators have this perception that, oh, well, you're online, you just go and they just click buttons and it's easy. But our curriculum is actually very difficult, very challenging. It requires a lot of our students. So I would say the perception, and we saw that a little bit with COVID too, where, the idea was, oh, these teachers aren't teaching, they're just sticking their kids in front of a laptop. So I would say that's a challenge. And then like you guys were commenting, getting staff trained for us, it's a little bit easier because it's a completely virtual environment. So it's either sink or swim, but there is a learning curve, especially for those that are coming from a brick and mortar environment to us. So we have to make sure that they're, onboarded properly and that they fully embrace all of the different technologies that we implement.
Yeah. The idea you bring up about the perception is really important to consider, because if we look at parents, because you're not just training the kids in how to do this, you're training the families in reality. And if we look at like the generation of parents that are out there, some of them don't understand what digital learning is or what it's like, because they've never experienced it themselves, or they had a really unpleasant experience in high school or college or at some point where their online course just didn't go the way, like it didn't really help them learn the content. So it's really having to train not just the kids, not just the teachers, but those families, and not in like how it looks differently and how to actually navigate all of it. So I agree, it's very important, and it's sometimes a struggle. Not going to sugarcoat it. Oops, let me. Oh, it wants to keep playing. Sorry. Okay. So we're just going to shift just a tiny little bit. We're not leaving the idea of digital learning, but we kind of like set this foundation of this is what digital learning is. This is how we see it. These are some advantages and disadvantages of it. So we're going to look at an article. It's a short article. It's actually an excerpt of a much larger article, but I'm not going to make you read the whole thing. We're just going to read this excerpt from it. It's a quick read, and it really focuses on, we like to use this term, reimagine learning in our office, about like, if we had all the potential in the world to change things, what might it look like? How would it be different? So if you open another tab, you can type in this link. You don't have to do the https://. You just do bit.ly. It is case sensitive, so it will be a capital B, capital S, capital N, capital E. And while you're pulling that up, what we would love for you to do is to read the article. And as you read it, just jot down a word, a phrase, and a paragraph that really resonated with you while you were while you were reading it. I clearly cannot talk today. I'm so sorry. So 3 things. You're going to come up with a word, a phrase or a sentence, and a paragraph that resonates with you or just stands out. If you finish before the others, I'm going to challenge you to write out a tweet, as if you were going to put it on Twitter, that bridges the ideas in the article and education initiatives. I have on here in Nevada, but you could even focus on your school if you want. Okay. Any questions about what you're doing? Okay, so I am going to mute myself. What I would like you to do is, when you are done, can you just do the thumbs up? I don't know what it's called. The little thing, like, the Zoom, the icon, the emoji, whatever it's called. And yes, Nicole, I will put that all in the chat for you right now. Nicole, I don't know if you're still driving or not, so just let me know if you need time to read it or if you're driving and you want us to continue. I hope you're not reading and driving.
I'm not reading and driving, I promise. No, my phone died as I was driving, so then I just kept driving, got home, and now I have my computer, so I am reading.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were still driving. That's fine. Take your time. Okay, thanks, Nicole. Okay, so let's talk about this article. Let's just all start. Go ahead and just share your one word, and without saying why, this is what I would like you to do, is get ready. Have you guys done a waterfall in Zoom before? Yeah, yes, maybe. Okay, well, what we're gonna do a waterfall. What I'm gonna have you do is type your word into the chat, but do not hit enter. Just type it. And then as soon as I say, okay, then we're all gonna hit enter at the same time. Okay, let me find my word again. Every time I use this article, I read it again and I always find something new. Let me find it. Okay. Is everybody ready? Okay, go, hit enter. I love it. We all have something different, which is great. Tammy, did you have a word in there? Yeah, still typing it.
It's in there. It's showing on my end to everyone, reinvented.
Oh, there you are. You're above mine. Sorry about that. I should look more closely, be more attuned with that. I love it. We all have different words, all of which are very powerful words. That's great. So now we're gonna do something different. I would like you to share your phrase or your sentence and why that resonated with you. Like, why did that come out to you? Anybody want to go first?
I will.
Okay,
I
thank
am
you.
horrible. I was great as a teacher with wait time, but as a student, I'm horrible. I'm horrible. So I thought cannot define innovation without defining equity was really powerful. It spoke to me because it's I think it's so important that we look at, like, equity is always like a hot topic, but that we really look at all of our students and really individualize that. We always are like, oh, we need to make sure we engage kids, but we need to engage each kid. And that's where that equity comes in, understanding the modalities, the cultures, the needs. And so for me, that was really powerful because I'm always thinking, oh, let's get innovative. But I've never thought, okay, we have to define equity first, and then we have the innovation. So that was mine. Thank you.
That's a really good one. It's almost like I paid you to write a prelude to what we're doing so shortly in this training. Thank you. Anybody else? Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. The phrase that I wrote was break free of factory style models of education designed for an industrial age and co-create radically different models.
Yeah, that's deep. Tell us why you chose
It's
that.
so deep. I mean, I work in a high school and all I feel every day is that we're just doing this, like this timed clock in and clock out. Like we're almost like we are putting them in a place where it's almost like we're trying to prepare them to be in the factories, but we don't have people working really in factories anymore. It's very antiquated. And I just really loved the idea of co-creating something different. The idea of, it's not just the educational, in my mind, it's not just the educational professionals that are creating this, it's co-created with people. And if we could get, in my mind, I was thinking, what if we could get businesses like on board to help us break free from this factory model? That to me was what was going through my mind. I'm sorry, it is so wild at my house. So if you're probably hearing
It's okay.
children
It's
and
okay.
dogs and dads.
We all work in education around kids all day long. Like, I think, yeah, you never have to apologize for like kids and animals, at least not to me. It's totally fine. Okay, Jamie, do you want to share?
Sure. So the phrase that really stuck out to me was the idea of radical departures, reinvention, finding extrapolations of the known, and then making those relevant for the 21st century and beyond. I think that statement in and of itself really defines kind of what we do when we are looking at how education is moving forward. But kind of what Nicole was saying is that, we're kind of stuck in this factory model, or have been for a long, long time, and we're sort of serving that. But, in order to truly innovate, we have to really think about, okay, what is the world that we're living in? And then I always think of it almost as like trying to pick a stock down the road. What is going to be the thing next that we need to move our students into, right? Like, and not crypto, but like an actual stock. Where is the Netflix of the future? Where is the Amazon of the future? And so that sort of, to me, is what drives innovative thinking. What is education going to look like moving forward? And how are we going to be able to harness that innovation as we go?
I love that. Yeah. Total side note, but I watched the interview with the crypto guy. Very interesting. And I am dying for some high school economics class to watch that interview and pull it apart and analyze. I can't wait. So if any of you have really stellar econ teachers at your schools, tell them to watch it. It was fantastic.
That's funny. Just as an aside, we were talking about crypto today, and we actually were talking about it paralleling as a parallel to education, in that a lot of the ideas behind crypto were solid, right? The
Yeah.
blockchain, like it's a more accessible currency. The problem was that the infrastructure wasn't there, that it wasn't built from the ground up. It was just kind of built. And I think we see that a lot of times, like with software programs. I remember back in the day in Clark County School District, Edline. You remember Edline? Hey, Edline, we're all going to have Edline. And everybody's like, what is that? Easy Grade Pro. I have no idea what that is. And then it was kind of like just pushed out there without any training or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that analogy because it is so true in so many different ways. And hello, kids can connect to cryptocurrency because they're interested in it. Like they see it. They're all about Bitcoins and cryptocurrency. Like they connect to that. So great analogy. I love that. So the phrase I pulled out this time was actually on the last page in the 2 columns where it has the status quo learning and then reinvented learning. And I pulled out to learn, to understand and wrestle with multiple truths and history rather than singular narratives. And I feel like that just really resonated with me. Thinking back on what my education was like, and especially when we look at learning history or science, it was like, let me just teach you all these facts and dates and let me just tell you how it is. And now it's so different. And my son is a freshman in high school and really struggling in biology because that's not what it's like anymore. And I love how he's learning because he's having to really think. He doesn't like it so much because he's struggling. He's having to work. And he's a 15-year-old boy. So like that really stuck out to me about something that is true, is that we want kids to come out to be problem solvers, to be thinkers, and to really analyze multiple perspectives. And that is a way to do it, So that was what stuck out to me. Any last minute closing thoughts about this article or about what was in the article before we shift a tiny bit?
I just want to say, when I read it, I just had a meeting with a teacher yesterday, one of my new teachers trying to get into technology and STEM. And the part on looking at questions to consider for learning. What does it look like when teachers shift how the power operates in a classroom? What does it look like to get rid of grade levels and artificial separations of subject areas? That was just not getting rid of grade level part, but merging the subjects to make it more cohesive and understanding, and letting the kids have the power in the classroom was a discussion I had with her yesterday. And I just like seeing that in writing and going, wow, that's, I need to take this article to her and share it with her, because she was so afraid to let go and she wanted, just wanted to keep that leash on the kids. And to me, it's just like, you've got to have that shift to power. You've got to let kids just run with it. And you've got to look at not teaching these little pockets of content. You really got to merge it, because in life, everything is merged. There's not, I can't think of a time I just sit and do science at home or just sit and do social studies or writing. It's all together in the real world. And that's so important, I think, to really reinforce and encourage our teachers to move that way, even though it's graded separate. We can deal with that in a rubric, but looking at how do we really empower kids to explore that world and to question and to get off the pages. We don't have physical books, but to get off those virtual pages and to get off to really question everything. Yeah. And I always share, when I was a kid, they were always like, Villarreal, just shut up. Somebody smarter than you in science, wrote this and know the things. And I remember going, if we thought the atom was the smallest, and then we went down to electrons, neutrons, and protons, and we had better tools, how do we know there's not something smaller? And I always was that kid with those weird questions. And I remember back when I was in college in 1985, going back to my science teacher and just going, Mr. Shoemaker, quarks. That's all I've got to say, quarks, and walked out. And so I think we have to let kids have that power to think and explore and question. And that has to be okay, that we can't just have regurgitated right answers anymore. We have to really shift that into world problem solving and into kids thinking and processing.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I wholeheartedly agree. It's like us as adult learners, it's no different. If it's not relevant to us, if we're not interested or anything like that, we're checked out 100% all the time. And I feel like sometimes with teaching, we get stuck in that like monotonous process of, okay, well, math is from 9 to 10:15 today, and science is from 10:15 to 10:45. And at 10:15, we're going to put our math book away, we're going to get our science book or whatever. And I feel like it's a hard thing to break, but once it happens, it becomes so much more enjoyable for all parties involved. Okay, so we are going to pose a question to you. If money were no object, you have all the money that was lost in the latest cryptocurrency scandal. We're talking billions and billions and billions. That is how much money you have to spend to reimagine learning at your school. You could do whatever you want. It's not like a normal grant where it has stipulations. You can only pay for this, this, or this. No, money is no object. You can do whatever you want to reimagine learning in your school. I'm going to set a timer and I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Okay, let me get my timer ready. And I want you to write down the top 3 things that you would do. You only get to choose 3. So choose the top 3 things. Okay, ready? Go. Mm. 30 seconds. Okay, time's up. Here's what I would like you to do. I would like you to first type your 3 items in the chat and number them 1, 2, and 3, like number 1 in order of your preference, 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to discuss, and I will put mine in there as well. These are great. You guys are creative. Love this. Ooh, teacher holograms. Jamie.
It's been an ongoing conversation that we've had.
Wow, I've never considered that.
Yeah, so the idea would be like, you would have a teacher assigned to you, and then they would travel with you through your day, and then they could see in real time what you were doing and then point out educational opportunities. So it could be anything from, you're preparing breakfast in the morning. Hey, we're going to do a quick math lesson on how many cups and that sort of thing. All the way up to, hey, that building that you just walked by, do you know the historical significance of that building and why it's important? And, a brief history instruction on that.
Wow, that is a cool idea. Very cool.
Give me the money, Jackie.
Yeah. Well, it's tied up in the Bahamas in one of like 20 mansions. So as soon as I can get it out, I'll
Got
get
that
it.
crypto.
So I thought you had it hooked to the crypto problem.
Well, I spent all the crypto. I spent everybody else's crypto on my mansions in the Bahamas. Okay, so let's talk about these. These are so great. Nicole, I think you and I are on like similar paths with so many things. I chose flexible scheduling. I feel like this whole like 7:30 to 2 or 2:30 or 8:30 to 3:30 thing, there's so much research out there that shows it is not the best way for kids to learn, that like teenage students need more time in the morning to sleep and go to school a little bit later, whereas younger students do better in those early mornings. And also for those kids that work or have internships, or I feel like their lives are very stifled by this antiquated time of when school starts and stops. My next thing is multiple course options for graduation requirements. Like, why does a kid have to take freshman English, then sophomore English, and then junior English? Why couldn't it be for the freshmen, you get to choose from one of these 5 courses where they're still learning all the elements of literature and writing, but maybe it's on a specific genre. Like if you love reading science fiction, take the class on science fiction. If you love Shakespeare, take Shakespeare, or historical fiction, like that kind of stuff. And then learning outside of 4 walls, which I think all of us really touched on, is, that access outside of, what are they learning outside of the walls? How are they making it relevant beyond the worksheet they're doing or the book they've read or, the assignment they've done? So those were mine. I would love for you to share. Whoever wants to go first can go first. I mean, it's hard to really beat Jamie's holograms. Like that will forever go down in my book, as because I've asked this question a lot over the last 6 months. Anybody want to share?
I'll go. I hate that wait time thing. The hologram, the first thing I thought of when he said that was if we're in Las Vegas. So the MJ, the little Michael Jackson hologram that comes up on the stage. I was like, I could just see MJ popping up. Hey, did you know?
They did a whole
just the
show with
people, I
Whitney
think.
Houston too, which was bizarre.
I saw that just came
Yeah.
out. It's like they're like life size on the stage. They look so
Yeah.
real. But I could, when you said that, I just pictured this pop-up teacher, like, you know, Carmen Sandiego or something saying, hi, guess what? So that was really cool. You could tell like who's elementary and who's not. So I already have preschool for all my kids that want to attend. So I'm really super lucky for that. But I just like, we need a connection. We have the equity for our students. If I could have like a hotspot or internet for every single solitary student at home so that they have that same advantage as their peers. And then I put number 2 because that's what my students are asking for. We only have 4 3D printers and they were like, Mrs. Valero, can we please get like a CNC? And they're really big into Tinkercad. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are. So like, can we get a CNC? Can we get more 3D printers? We want to, like, they have so many things they want to make and build and connect with. And so that would be like from my student wish list, because that's what they're asking for right now. And then I would like technology consultants. I know we have like tech guys right now, but I'd like somebody that just researches. There is so much stuff out there, and somebody that just like streamlines it and presents it to the teams like, hey, this is the new latest greatest thing, this is the next best thing, here's stuff that will really work. And it helps make those connections with what we're already doing so that learning's deeper and more meaningful for our students, because there is a lot of really cool stuff out there.
Agreed. Those are
And it
great.
would probably be like some 16 or 17-year-old that I pick up from you guys at the high school that is that technology account advisor, because those are the ones that, you know, got it.
Yeah, it's true. Jamie, Nicole, Jamie, do you want to like expand on your other 2 now that we went down the hologram rabbit hole?
Yeah, minus the hologram. So I think kind of mirroring what Tammy just said, you know, the idea that in my mind, in a perfect world, you know, we all aspire as educators to make education relevant to students. I know when I was in the physical classroom, that was something that was important to me, making sure that I was bringing in, you know, current issues, things that students were dealing with in their everyday life and incorporating the curriculum. So in a perfect world for me, with an unlimited budget, it would be the same. It would be simultaneous. There would be no requirement for a student to be at a school building at 8 a.m. In fact, they would just live their lives, and education would happen on top of it, or in concert with what they were doing in a very real-time way. You know, hologram may not be possible, but some way that we can provide instruction and or supplemental learning to students, for students, while they are experiencing the reality that they're living. Because I think for too long, education and reality have been like on divergent tracks. And we see that sometimes that can be dangerous in society and culture when people have a perception of what reality is and reality is actually something completely different. So I think we need to find a way to sort of merge that back together for students in Reno, for students in Vegas, for students in Winnemucca. You know, their realities are all different, but we're still teaching the same way across the board. And so I think finding a way to incorporate it into a real world application.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. We were in Winnemucca in, gosh, I don't even remember when we were there, like maybe in the summertime. And we asked the same question to their administrators there. And the high school principal brought up a really important thing to consider, which I myself had never considered before. He said it's really hard for them in their high school to tell their seniors, you need to, or even their freshmen, you need to take all these classes to get into college. You need to do good on the, like score well on the ACT, all that stuff. When they can literally graduate from high school on Friday, by Monday, be fully employed at the gold mine in town, making $100,000 a year, whereas one of their buddies or friends will be at UNR for 4 years, getting an engineering degree, leave $100,000 in debt to come back and work at the same mine, at a lower pay and a lower like level for the mining company. So it's like the narrative has to change based on the locale where those kids are, what like, and we need to attend to that. College is not going to be for everyone. In fact, I was just reading a story last night about how the jobs report came out, and they're talking about unfilled jobs. And it showed that 48% of jobs, unfilled jobs right now, require college degrees. Well, I'm sorry, last month they required college degrees. They went back and they revised those because the industries are now looking at like, is a college degree really necessary? Or do we need people who are problem solvers, thinkers, you know, still have the skills, but maybe they just don't have the 4-year degree? And it lowered, once they reevaluated all those, it lowered it down to 41%. So 7% might not sound like a lot, but when you're talking hundreds of thousands of jobs, 7% is a lot of jobs. And to me, that speaks volumes about how things in education need to shift. You know, a college degree might not be necessary for everybody. Maybe it's industry or careers or, you know, there's a lot of different things. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox because I can.
No, especially in Vegas too. Like you're talking about Winnemucca. I'll never forget my first year in the district. I was a brand new teacher in a portable, and you know, scrapping together lesson plans, and you know, I had a student tell me, oh, you know, well, I sell coats at the forum shops, and I'm pulling down $80,000, and here I am in a Honda Civic, and you know, he's cruising by in a really nice look. Yeah, I mean, the reality is the reality, and so I think for too long in the educational world, we've sat back in our, you know, our rooms and said, you know, this is how it's done and this is how it's been done. It doesn't always match the reality of our students.
Yeah. Which we can then tie back to digital learning, but we'll do that eventually. Nicole, I want to give you a chance to share.
I want to respond to all the things that you guys were saying, but I just, you know, just to kind of, man, it's a lot. And you're exactly right. With working in high school for the last 20 years, I noticed that there's been a huge shift from kids learning how to problem solve to kids just learning how to like answer these rote memorized questions. And I struggle with teachers sometimes because I'm an assistant principal, for those of you that have not met me yet, getting them to remember, like if they can Google it, your question isn't good. To me, it's not good enough. It's not using enough of their brain power. So we talk, that's a whole other soap to get on, right? But my ideas are, you know, with early education being free for everyone, we know that early education is the highest predictor of success, period. And it's still inaccessible to so many families. So that would be where I would probably spend the majority of my money. Is I don't even care if they're rich, poor, whatever, just everybody gets preschool for free. Not even I don't even care about the college for free. I care about the preschool for free, to be really honest, because that does help every child. And then because I'm a high school person and I'm getting ready to start reimagining learning in a brand new high school that's going to be opening in our district. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've been thinking about how we could get paid internships for students. And by paid internships, I really actually want them during the school day, but that's really hard with an inflexible schedule and state mandated seat time. And honestly, as I'm looking at it, I really just think our state needs to change the seat time policy, because if it's 10 days or however many hours it is, or, you know, it's 60 hours a semester for the elementary folks in the room, it's 60 hours a semester to earn credit, but these kids are missing so much school anyway and are able to make it up because of digital learning, and therefore are passing their classes, but then we're denying them credit because they didn't sit for so many days. It just seems crazy to me. So that goes to my flexible schedule piece. Like they should be able to hit all the time for their learning times and needs, but I like the idea of a paid internship or like a paid travel, like a semester abroad even would be great for our students. That way they're learning from other communities. Even if the other community is Utah, that's fine too, you know, or I mean, sure, a lot of them go to California, but I mean, looking at something like an East Coast or something in the South or something in the Midwest to go learn about different people, go see the festival, that would be awesome, right? Go see where this actually happened. Go see where the 49ers were. And I don't mean the NFL team, you know what I mean? Like that would be worth our money and our time. We have kids who are learning about things that, I mean, they've never even been across the city they can't imagine how to place themselves in that time frame. Even with videos, they can't quite make sense of it because they don't leave their neighborhood. That was probably a whole lot. I'm sorry, I suffer from ADD, but there's my brain goes like 1,000 miles, but that's where I'd put all my money, to be honest.
No, those are all great. And so I live in Carson City. I have taught in Carson City. And I do remember when I taught 5th grade, we always did this winter survival unit, and we took the kids up to Tahoe, and the rangers up there taught them how to like make a fire in the snow and like how to get like protection from the elements and all that stuff. And you would be surprised at how many kids had never driven the 12 miles from our school to Tahoe. Like just never done it because they live in their neighborhoods. That's what they're used to. So completely agree with all that. Love this conversation. I feel like I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. Dave, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just for Nicole's sake, just kind of watch this session. We already know there's a couple bills around seat time. So Jackie and I may be calling back on you guys to help us, because at least our office, it's something we've been pushing our own state superintendent and the legislators around. So, because we're pretty tied to a lot of that whole competency based and the portrait of a Nevada learner and all that. So appreciate the
I
comments.
love
It
that.
makes us
I
feel
love that.
very.
I'm so excited.
Yep. Nope, we are too. Jackie is, and then we have another colleague, Janie Maloney. The three of us are kind of on that edge of that. So hearing that made me feel really good. So thanks, Jackie.
And
And
can I
we're-
just add
go
about
ahead.
seat time, because it's kind of interesting, because we're a virtual school. Our seat time requirement is different than a brick and mortar school. So our seat time is directly related to lesson completion. So, what's interesting about that is in some ways, our seat time is reflective of what the student is actually doing as opposed to just physically sitting there. So I don't know if that's a model that's under consideration for all schools, but I do like the idea. It's almost like you get paid for what the work you're doing, as opposed to just, sitting there and taking up space. So
Interesting.
Jimmy, we love any of these ideas, right? It keeps us moving, to at least make the change. So
This is great. Thank
my
you.
hologram first, and then we'll work on something.
okay, you got it.
Okay, so we're already at 5:16. I didn't realize the time, and I know we still have 45 minutes left, but I want to definitely honor your time because we have 2 more sections to get through. So I might cut this down just a tiny bit. So kind of like making almost full circle back to digital learning. In 2021, a digital learning guide was developed for the state of Nevada by the Department of Education. Now, you'll remember November 2021, even though it was only a year ago, we were just coming out of COVID. Things were messy. We're like making things, trying to put band-aids on gaping wounds and celebrate the things that had happened. And this guide, the purpose behind it was to really give some guidance and support for anybody that needed it. So what I would like you to do is I can type the link into the chat for you as well, but I would like you to pull up the, sorry, I was trying to type and talk at the same time, it didn't work. Pull up the digital learning guide. And again, case sensitive. So if I have it capital, make sure you have it capitalized. And just glance through it. You're not going to have time to read all of it. It's a pretty lengthy document. And I would like you to just pull out like one connection that you notice in the guide between the video we watched, the article we read, and maybe the discussion we just had. Like, what are the connections you see in there?
Jackie, that's hard to imagine. That's a year old
I know. I know.
as we're doing this.
Probably needs some revisions for
Mhm.
update.
Now that fits your other question.
Mm-hmm. Nicole, I can share the video with you if you'd like to see it.
Great, thank you.
Mhm. So once you get to a point that you see a connection or you've glanced through it and you think you see a connection, go ahead and just put it in the chat. Like I said, this is a lengthy document. There's a lot in it. Probably not enough time in this at all to go through it and unpack it all. And then after you put something in the chat about the connections, I challenge you to go back and even if you just look at the table of contents, see if there's anything missing. Is there something that should be included that maybe isn't included? We've learned a lot in a year. We've learned a lot in 2 years after COVID, through COVID. Maybe we've missed something. Yes. All students, equity, applying skills, bridging the divide. Mm. Yeah, Jamie, that's a good one about empowering educators to personalize learning. So it's very interesting. Out of the entire document, all three of you really pulled out pieces related to focusing on all students, looking at that equity piece, the personalized learning. That's very interesting. Maybe I prompted you to do that. I don't know if I did, but that's very interesting to me, that and exciting, actually, to be honest with you. It makes me really excited that 3 people from 3 different schools came together with no prompting and pulled that out of. Did anybody happen to see anything that was missing at this point? And we will come back to this learning guide in the next session, so don't feel like you have to be fully engrossed and know all of this learning guide at this point. This is just an exposure point. But did you see anything missing right now that maybe needs to be addressed or added in? And maybe that's a question we come back to in February.
Well, I did notice you do have some times for the younger kids, because I am in an elementary school. We really look at, and we do use a lot of technology. We constantly monitor the research, the pros and cons of brain development with the technology. And I noticed you do have guiding strategies for pre-K through kindergarten, first and second grade, with the smaller blocks of time and the repetitiveness. And we are a huge technology school, but just because we are seeing more kids, and research shows it is happening, that can't self-soothe, higher frequency of ADHD, is there a way to really guide that so we still have the benefits, but we also aren't getting those negative impacts of the technology? Because those young brains, if you dig into the research, there's a lot of research. It shows pros and cons, but that pre-K, kinder, first grade brain is literally rewired with technology, and kids can't self-soothe, and they have more emotional issues, and there's increase in ADHD and ADD. And so I think, well, again, we're huge on technology, but really thinking outside the box for technology. So maybe it's not the screen time part. I know there's Kibos and things like that now that kids can code without actually using the screen to do it. So maybe thinking about technology that has allows depth of learning. Does that make sense? While not having the negative impact of the brain. And that's just on it says any age could be impacted, but there's a lot of research that shows those really younger kids. I know we're kind of looking at it and trying to figure out how to use smaller chunks of time, less screen time. What can we delve into without causing the negative pieces? So I think that's just something to consider and maybe advise really strongly in there with the littles.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great feedback. I completely agree. Yeah, that's a great one. Jamie, Nicole, did you notice anything? I know I didn't give you a ton of time, so it's okay if you didn't.
I was just going to mention, because one of the things that I see, and I haven't really looked closely to see, you probably do have it built in, but one of the things that we struggle with is basic skills, listing basic skills. So we have students that come to us that can navigate the heck out of TikTok and can, create a Python bot to play their favorite phone game, but can't figure out how to save a document to a desktop and drag it over to a Dropbox. So, we've even gotten to the point where we're basic 101, here's a PDF, here's how you open a PDF, here's how you edit a PDF. So, and then even updating software like Zoom, for example, sometimes you have to update it. There's a new version that rolls out. What do I do if my speaker goes out or my microphone is failing? I have to restart my computer. How do I identify my, just real basic rudimentary things that I think a lot of our students, especially on laptops and desktops, are not familiar with because they live on their phones. So when they get to a desktop and a laptop, they're a little bit confused. So that's sort of what we've been doing on our end. I don't know if that's built into this.
Well, I can't speak to it being built into the guide. I'd have to go back and read it again. I haven't read it in a couple months, full disclosure. But I will applaud you because those are standards, Nevada standards in computer science and integrated technology. So you're teaching the standards, which is, it might be rudimentary and basic in some respect, but yeah, definitely necessary for a lot of those kids.
I just wanted to add one thing I guess I feel is maybe missing, and as a secondary person, what Jamie said is spot on. Like, these kids are on their phones all the time. So even though we have these ideas of, if I'm looking at it, digital citizenship safety, I don't think we're really teaching them about social media safety. I think social media has become so ingrained in our society, good, bad, and different. I think I'm glad I'm not a teenager in today's society, because the online presence and the need to get likes, I think, is something that needs to be put in there, maybe about social media and about maybe some SEL with social media, like you are not your likes, you are not your hearts kind of stuff. And I agree with, and it's Tammy, I believe, that is the elementary person. There's something about screen time on phones as well, not just on our computers, because I see that a lot. We have a life strategies class, and part of the life strategies class is to have them look at their app usage and how many hours they're actually on their phones and engaged in that way. And some of them do Canvas from their phones, and some, they do legitimate things through those devices, but analyzing, are you on social media more than you're doing your work? Like, are you getting enough sleep? Those kinds of things I think maybe need to be added, because we have to stay current with the times.
Yeah, those are all great things. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and listen to this recording and jot down better notes, including all the things that we've talked about and shared. I started to write notes, but then I got totally sidetracked in our conversation. So I'll come back.
Can I just piggyback on something Nicole said that might be added as well? She talked about your likes and things. I can't remember who did the research. It might have been Oxford University, but they actually, maybe we need to add a component about integrity and filtering what we say. There was some research that showed, like, they had a girl singing. She was actually a renowned violinist. The kids were like, why are you wasting your breath alive? Why are you even alive? You're so horrible, things like that. But when she walked in and said, oh, I just wanted to get feedback, they totally changed everything they said. And it's so easy for our kids on social media to just lack a filter and integrity when they share. So maybe that's when we're looking at the SEL piece, like Nicole was talking about, maybe we teach that, how to still maintain our integrity and still humanize what we say instead of just tossing it out there and not really caring. Because I think there's a lot of adults. I would say all the way up through politicians, adults, everybody. It's easy to just throw your first thought out on social media, and kids are learning that same piece. And I think we kind of need to teach them how to filter and still be human. So maybe something with the SEL piece.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's easy to hide behind a username or a handle. It's much more difficult, like when we were growing up, to say something mean to somebody on the playground when they're right there, Okay.
But that anonymity and the toxicity, I hate that word, but that is seen online, is, to Tammy's point, is leaking into society as a whole in real time. So I think you're right that, how to be, polite and kind, like basically, like, I was at Target yesterday and it was madness, both adults and teenagers. And you just listening to the conversations, you're like, no, that's not how that's supposed to be said. So stuff like that. 100%.
Great. Thank you so much, you guys, for engaging in all these conversations. We're going to dive into one last deep section because we've kind of been hovering around this idea of equity all night long. Like we've talked about this whole thing from digital learning to reimagining education to like all kinds of things. And so we're going to finish up the night with a brief conversation around equity. So I have 4 images on the screen right now. They all show something related to equity and equality. What I would like you to do is just choose like which image is really resonating with you tonight in this moment, because tomorrow it might be something different. In 3 hours, it might be well, hopefully you'll be asleep in 3 hours, but it might be something different in a couple of hours. So choose the image, keep it to yourself. I'll give you a couple minutes to really dive into these images. And then what I'd like you to do is type that bit.ly. It's going to take you to a Jamboard. And I did type it in the chat as well, because I'm going to exit this for a moment so I could pull it up and show you. So this is the Jamboard that we're looking at, okay? You'll see I have all 4 pictures in the Jamboard. What I would like you to do is you can either use a Post-it by clicking on this box right here, it says, or sticky note is what they call it, or you can add a text box. You don't have to put your name, it's completely anonymous. But comment on which image resonated with you. So put your text or your text box or your sticky note close to that image. And why is that resonating with you today? So while we're waiting for the last one, I would like you to, at the top, you'll see there's these two arrows where you can go to the next frame. And in the next frame, I have added a question for you to consider. What considerations are necessary when incorporating digital learning to build an equitable education system? So similar to the first one, I would like you to either add a sticky note, add a text box. You can add as many as you want, but I would like you to at least add one response to that question. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the 4 images. And let's talk about these. Because I'm sure all of you have seen these images at one point or another, come across social media, come across a training, like in a meeting. We've probably all seen them. It looks like the one about assessment was really like hitting home for several people today. And I wonder if it is assessment season. And that is how we're feeling. And that is okay. It's okay to have one image like really hit home at different times. For me, I chose the bicycle one because I just, when I looked at it, I immediately saw this tiny little girl riding this big, huge bike. And it reminded me of my daughter when she wanted to learn how to ride a bike. And my son's bike was too tall for her. And she was so frustrated and so upset, but she really wanted to learn how to ride a bike. And moral of the story, we had to end up go buying another bike for her. But like, I just remember that. And it was like, well, you know, she had a bike she could ride. Yes, it wasn't hers, but she could ride it technically. But then I think about it and I'm like, the bottom section really shows that every single person in there has the bike that they need that fits them so that they can ride a bike. And so anyway, today, this is the one that really resonated with me when I think about equity and equality myself. Does anybody else want to share? No pressure, you don't have to, but I do want to open it up in case anybody is interested.
I will. I selected the one on assessments. I saw that one years ago. It's been a while back. And it hit me hard then because we always have that one assessment. Like it used to be end of chapter test. We all have SBAC. We all have these just one assessment. And when we were becoming a STEM school, one thing we really looked at is why do all kids have to just have that one assessment or that one project? And so that one thing we started really looking at was choice menus, to where they get to pick based on their modality or their interest level and offer different pieces so that it's not just all the same, and they can really express themselves in a way that's great. I've got some teachers that have the kids picking how they'll be assessed, which is really kind of cool. And they're adding to that choice menu when they unwrap the standard. So I think it's just really important to remember, in real life, we don't all, in my job at least, I know I heard Nicole say she was an assistant principal. Even though we have the same evaluation tool, probably, we all have different experiences every day that challenge us. And I think that needs to be, for our kids, that assessment needs to meet those challenges. I hope that made sense.
It did. It was perfect. Thank you for sharing that.
So my partner is the school accountability coordinator for our school. So I'm knee deep in testing season always, all day, every day. And I think for me, the one that is really difficult is, as you guys know, the ACT is required for the high school students. And we have so many students that are so bright and so sharp, but that particular test is designed in such a way that, it can be really confounding for some of those students. And so that's always hard. And we try our best to prepare them for how to take the test, not necessarily for the content, but how the test is structured. But I always think of that as, is this really a true assessment of what a student knows and has learned? Maybe to some degree, but then how much of it is just learning how to take that specific test? So I think I've been thinking about that a lot. And I think that's kind of why it's resonating a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah. Anybody else want to share? You don't have to. I just want to give you the opportunity. Okay. So let's talk about this question. Like, let's bring this all together, full cycle. Like, let's come back to the digital learning. And we really just only touched on the equity piece. We're going to dive into that much more in session 2. But what are the considerations that we need to make? Like, we can fully buy into digital learning. We can fully implement it. But in order to really make it a sustainable and equitable system for all students, like we've talked about many times tonight, what do we need to consider? What do we need to think about? And you guys added some great things. Accessibility is huge, and it's mentioned on 3 stickies or sticky notes. Yeah, the accessibility, and it's not, you can't like just hand a kid a device and be like, okay, they have everything they need, because when they go home, they may not. And I will never forget, I was working with a teacher in Carson City School District, and this was like 9 years ago. They were one of the first districts in Nevada to go 1-to-1, and was working with this teacher, and she said, well, she was having problems with a student, like a 4th grader, bringing their Chromebook back and forth from home. And like, just through like casual conversation with this kid, I learned that when he took his Chromebook home, his parents were using it for their stuff. So he never had an opportunity because they didn't have a computer at home. So his parents were taking advantage of it, which is not at the fault of the kid. And he was capable of doing his work. He just couldn't because his parents were using his device. And it was something that I can speak for myself, I had never considered that until that moment. And now it's something I think about all the time. And so even a simple thing is like providing hotspots. Broadband, there's been a big push for broadband and connectivity around the state through COVID, but there are still pockets where kids cannot access the internet. It's still out there, even in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we have kids at Starbucks. We'll
Oh, yeah.
call them and I'm at Starbucks because there's, or the library, but yeah, very limited Wi-Fi in some areas.
McDonald's.
Oh, I didn't know McDonald's had free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, McDonald's too.
Interesting. I really love this level of learner readiness to use the technology. So true. And like we've talked about tonight, kids can be a whiz at TikTok and using their phones. But when you ask them to create a spreadsheet or to do a presentation. They may not have that skill set. And so those are considerations that a teacher has to take when they're designing a lesson, and they're considerations that we would need to take to build this system of digital learning. And then again, like we've talked about tonight, the diversity, the professional learning that's required, the sustainability, all these things. So we're going to save this Jamboard, and we're going to keep coming back to these, and we'll probably add some more notes to this over time as we keep building on this. Let me get back to my slides. So I don't get off track, because as you may have noticed, I will get off track and have a total side conversation. It'll be related to this, but it won't be what we had planned to talk about. So we're gonna kind of like close this up for today. We always like to include this professional learning suggestions QR code and bit.ly for everyone. At the department, we're really interested in what professional learning like administrators or teachers or even district level administrators or TOSAs might need. So this is an opportunity to put your suggestions in there. I will, if you guys want to, actually you put your emails in the attendance, right? I can't remember if it's in there. We can follow up and send you this slide deck so you have all the resources as well. Some next steps for you. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a 3-session training. In session 2, which is on February 15th, after you've recovered from the post-Valentine's Day lull at your school, we're gonna like come back and dive into some more of the equity conversation and those considerations and start drafting a plan for sustainable digital learning at your school. So many of you have very successful pockets of digital learning. I can already tell just based on the conversations. So what can we do to make that sustainable? What can we do to expand that so it's reaching more students, maybe more disciplines or content? Maybe it's incorporating a different level of assessment or multiple forms of assessment, all that kind of stuff. And then session 3 on May 3rd is where you're going to start looking at how to take your plan and put it into action. So ideally, by the end of session 3, you will have something tangible that you can go to your school, and maybe it's like something you work on is like an iterative process over the summer for the next school year, or something you work with just a grade level or just a content area of like, what can you do around digital learning that you have control over that will just make it more enhanced and more available to all students. Any questions about those? No? Okay. You can always reach out if you have questions. And then lastly, I'm trying really hard to get you out of here a few minutes before 6 because this went way later. We had so many good conversations. Dave's email and my email is up there on the screen. Please feel free. You can email us at any time. If we don't know the answer to your question, we will find the answer. We try really, really hard to respond to all of our emails within 48 hours. He and I are both a little obsessed about it, making sure we have emails addressed. But yeah, and if you ever need any support around digital learning, we would love to support you, love to help you come to your school, meet with your teachers, do training, like whatever. And one of my colleagues, Janie Malorney, she normally does these with us. She is fantastic as well. And the 3 of us work very closely together. And we really just want to support you, support your teachers, support your school, and really just make learning even better for the students in Nevada. So please always feel, welcome to reach out via email. You can call us, whatever. So, but truly thank you. I loved this conversation tonight. You guys are amazing. Thank you for giving me 2 hours of your evening. If you're not home, please go home. And enjoy a nice dinner, whatever you would like to do. Get your grandkids home and your children to bed, whatever you need to do. But thank you so much.
Great.
Thanks,
great
guys.
insight, guys.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much.
Great job.